you for listening to another episode of PintheQ Podcast, where preserving the culture and traditions of the fire service is our priority. For more information, visit www.pintheq.com and subscribe to PintheQ Productions on YouTube. It's our honor to showcase the best of the bravest.
Hey everyone, welcome back to PintheQ Productions, PintheQ Podcast. We are on location here in Holmdel, New Jersey, and this 2-engine house is awesome. I know we're missing a piece, but at the moment, 2-engine house. Brother, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. This
Absolutely.
is awesome. This whole experience so far has been awesome.
That's great. Before we get any further, man, why don't you tell everybody who you are?
Okay. I'm Steve Drejman. I'm a firefighter here at Holmdel Fire Rescue Company number 2. I've been here since 2016. I was in another department 2 years before that, and in another department 10 years before that.
Nice.
Yeah, or something like that.
You've been around the block. You've been around the block a few times.
I don't like keeping count. I take the hat off. I got like the peninsula on my forehead.
Nice,
I'm not dealing
nice.
with that.
We all have that going on.
I lose hair every time I start talking about how long I've been doing this.
But it's been a good ride, man, right?
Awesome. I owe everything I have in my life to the fire service.
That's awesome, man. And you could tell that just by us meeting and talking before the show, and then here when we got here, take me around. You got that glow. Like this obviously means something to you.
Oh, 1,000%.
And one of the cool things I liked right from the beginning was as soon as we started talking, you introduced me to these guys at the firehouse with you.
Sure.
Tell me who these guys are.
So that is Frankie and Richie, our two most noble probies, I guess if you want to call them that. They're 2 out of I think we have 10 total now. That you're talking to, like, out of those 10, only 2 of them are in the academy. The rest of them are out. So that's fresh mind for molding, and it's a lot of it.
Yeah.
So we have been collectively trying to do here as a company to jam as much fireman stuff into them as we can.
You talked to me earlier. You told me you have, 9 or 7 probies? How many?
Yeah, I think 9 or 10. I don't know. They're like gremlins. You throw water on them, feed them after midnight. They multiply.
So, let's talk about that for a second, because you have that many probies in one time. That's a lot of probies at one shot. So you're talking about juggling, trying to keep people motivated, interested, on the map.
I agree 1,000% with that, and it's hard to do.
Yeah,
it's hard to do. These 2 in the back there, they got the bug hardcore, and they're always hitting me up. Hey, can you come to the firehouse? Hey, can I stretch lines with you? Hey, can we do this and that? They're go-getters. You know what I mean? They if they continue to apply themselves the way they do right now for the rest of their time in the fire service, right? Because, there are career guys, there are volunteer guys. I say time because this is a lifestyle. This is not something that it's more than a career.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
So those guys, right, and the rest of the guys too, it's not just them, all of them, when they have the time to come out, they all put forth 110% because we don't give them an option not to. Right. Obviously, in a volunteer department, probies will come and go. Kids will go and do other things that they don't want to do. And then, next thing you know, they're going to college and then they're off and now they're done with the department. It's hard to keep them.
Yeah.
Molding them is fine. Keeping them is hard.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Talk to me about this logbook.
Oh,
hey, Frankie, grab me this logbook, man. I gotta show this. It's too cool not to.
Frankie, get the book.
Dude, Frankie Walnuts, Frankie Fingers.
That's Frankie Knuckles.
Frankie Knuckles.
He's killing it all the time.
I like any one of those. So I like this book a lot.
Thank you.
You showed it to me when we were just talking off camera, and so I asked you one of the questions I asked you. What did I ask you about this book? Do you remember?
To be honest with you, no.
I asked you if, dude, honesty.
I don't remember.
Honesty is the best policy.
Yeah.
One of the questions I asked Steve was, I said, "Hey, man, by filling out this book, do you get extra credit for this?"
No way.
And what'd you tell me?
No, absolutely not. Yeah. That book is, so on the front of it, it says Pride and Practice. Right. So the point of the book, right, is to keep ourselves in check with what has been happening, right? It's a fact checker, right? So if I look in the book and I see that it's been 2 weeks since nobody's written in the book, either we're getting lazy or stuff's not getting done. It's a checks and balances. It's a motivation to continue to try and make sure these two rigs are in tip-top shape, combat ready, 1,000%. It's a way to keep ourselves having pride in the firehouse. Something simple, swept the bays out.
Well, yeah, and what I like about it is exactly that. I mean, I look.
Some guys write the New Testament. You know what I mean? Some
Right,
guys write something small, something big. It doesn't matter what it is. As long as it benefits the company, it doesn't matter.
It's great because it basically all this does is just keeps people in check for one.
Oh, yeah.
Secondly, it's like
Keeps me humble.
If your name's not in this book, you got to ask yourself a question like, what am I not doing right?
So that's one of my rules. No names.
Right.
No names. Only what benefits the company, small or large. If you're not writing something in the book, you haven't earned the right to sit down and watch a TV.
I love that.
Yeah.
So no names in this book.
No names. I want zero names. This is a team effort.
It's just what you did.
Yeah. The front page has our rules. I had to write rules because if I don't write rules, these animals will be drawing all kinds of crap in there. I don't want anything to do
All right.
with
So
that.
every time you do something,
Log it.
log it. Cleaning up, training, maintenance.
Don't matter. No names.
Let us never be outworked.
That's it, man.
I love it.
So, like, especially around here, we do a lot of calls, right? Like, for instance, for the month, we had 60 calls, right? For a volunteer department, a single company, it's hard, right? It's hard to get out the door.
It's a lot of runs.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And the problem is we get consistent calls. We go to the Parkway a lot for extrication. We go, we do a lot of running around. But we only get a handful of fires a year, right? We are starting to go a lot more mutual aid now, which is great. So the hard part is these probies have to gain experience, right? I can sit there and have him pull off the prop, or we can advance, fill the hallway with smoke all they want. Until they get in and until they start doing fireman things, they're not going to become seasoned firemen.
Without the guidance.
Yeah.
Without
exactly.
the push.
1,000%.
And, it's funny, man. There was just a mention on Instagram. Somebody wrote, if the kids aren't doing what they're supposed to do and they're not motivated, they have no drive. It's not their fault.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Bro, it's our fault. It's our fault as senior members. Like,
1,000%.
what are we doing wrong?
So I've been really pushing. That's why I started I did the Instagram thing, right? I like the Instagram thing, watching other, and think about that as a subject in itself.
Right.
When you guys like you and I were coming up, I didn't have Instagram.
No.
I didn't have your Instagram to look at what other people are doing, the tactics, what other fires look like. We didn't have any of that. We had
Firehouse Magazine.
Fire rescue,
engineering.
fire engineering, whatever came to the station.
And of course the VHS tapes.
The VHS tapes,
Yep.
the Bronx is burning.
The Bronx is burning,
All
yeah.
of those cool things, you watch those
R1 Smoke Eater, man.
all
Those videos.
those FDNY SOC units post 9/11 videos, dude. Those guys are awesome.
Yeah.
But
Blue jeans and pull-ups, man.
that's it, man. That's back when
Yeah.
firemen did fireman things.
It's different. It's just different, man. But it's like we're trying to. One of the coolest things I'm seeing right now is this generation, man. Everybody, they're beating them up, man. Right. But I'm seeing the opposite of that now.
Sure.
I would say there's a big shift in the last 2 years with the newer guys, man. Girls coming in, they have that bite. They have that fire, man. It's awesome. It's like that blue jean pull-up.
It reminds me of me when I was younger.
Yeah, man.
I sit there you asked me when you wanted to do the podcast, find pictures for me to put in the show. And I'm like, oh God. I'm like, where am I getting that from? So I'm like Facebook. Wow. I'm like going to social media I did a lot of digging.
Yeah, man.
And let me tell you what, it brought up a lot of memories.
Yeah. Like, oh my God, I remember that.
Yeah, exactly. Half this, I'm like, oh my God. And I think back now, I even remember the moves I made during some of the calls that we have pictures of. And I'm like, could have done that differently. Could have done that. Just having the knowledge now, and I would trade it for getting past that knowledge when I was a younger person in a second.
Like if you knew now, we didn't know then.
Oh, it's over.
But you can go back.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, we'd be like superstars,
Oh.
and it'd be amazing.
But that's the part of the senior man that's very important.
Absolutely.
That's a part of that boss that's going to show you the way, right? because if you're not shown the way, you got to try and figure it out yourself. And that's when it gets bad. So, don't get me wrong. You got to go off on a whim every now and then and do things yourself. I get it. But teaching your probie, showing your probie an aggressive way to do things while calculating every move you make is something that the fire service needs to see all of the time. Mm-hmm. And I try as hard as I can because, the kids come out of the academy, right? They're shown what to do in the academy, right? They're shown stretching the line, how to pack it. Mm-hmm. They're showing all of the basics, right?
Basics.
You have to bring them back to the firehouse, right? With that knowledge that they've attained and the knowledge you've helped them attain through the academy. Now you have to strip them down again. Yep. And show them how you do it for your jurisdiction, because every jurisdiction is different.
When you get back to your firehouse, that's truly when the job starts for you. And
1,000%.
And when I say job, man, I'm not talking about career. I'm not talking about a profession per se.
Right.
Volunteer, career, it doesn't make a difference.
Right.
We're all doing the same job.
Right.
So
paid guys,
that's where it starts, at the firehouse, wherever house you're in.
1,000%. Paid guys go to more fires, right, in big cities and things like that. But like you said just now, it all starts the moment you put your foot from the apron into the bay. The bug.
Dude, that was a ladybug. That's supposed to be good luck. I think you killed her.
What is going on?
I don't know.
Does that mean I have bad luck?
You screwed both of us basically at this point.
Now the rain's going to come.
But yeah, exactly. It's going to come like that.
You got me.
But it's true. It's like, I've heard these horror stories where someone's like, yeah, I joined the fire department where I live. I walked in and the guy was a complete to me, and I just about faced and walked out. And it's like you had and it's gone.
So you're bringing forth a lot of good topics with the moment they step through the door, right? When you were a kid, right, and you never played hockey. I enjoy hockey very much.
Me too.
First time I ever played hockey, right? My old man's gonna love hearing this. The first time I ever played hockey, right? I went to 2 practices, was fine with it, but I didn't know all of the rules, right? It's all about that first introduction.
Right.
The first time I played hockey, I cross-checked the kid. You're talking like 3 minutes into my first game. I'm all excited. I got my, my Easton aluminum stick, dating myself, right? And I cross-checked it, like didn't even know what I was doing. Went to go throw the hit.
You're like, that was quick. I'm already out of the game.
Yeah. Kid turned his back. I got ejected. Yeah. I'm in the locker room like, Dad, what did I do wrong? Because I was like, I think I was 9 years old.
Yeah.
I'm like, whenever you start playing people, 9, 10, 11, whatever it is. And he was just like, I wanted nothing to do with hockey for like a month. And he was just like, why don't you give it another shot because you had a bad experience? What I just talked about versus a probie coming in this firehouse and me going, what the hell do you want? Or rubbing off or a probie hearing within the first 10 seconds of being in the firehouse, hearing somebody yelling, screaming at each other, or you hear, they just get the bad vibe. They're like, yeah, cool. So yeah, they're not going to want this.
Yeah.
And
especially with volunteerism itself, with being down. Like,
yeah, man.
Even more and more important now to try to get us back where we need to be.
Exactly. But I agree with that, right? I want to make sure that a probie feels welcome. A probie feels like they're wanted here because they are. But at the same time, a probie needs to feel like a probie too.
Absolutely.
Right.
You got to pay your dues. I mean,
you got to pay your dues.
Don't be misunderstood.
Yeah. You gotta get your chops busted. You gotta go through what probies go through, because that's a part of building the culture.
And there's a big difference between learning in the fire service and hazing.
Yeah. 1,000%.
We're not talking about hazing. We're talking about
both
building a culture.
Yeah. And some departments, they don't know they break balls so hard that some kid's going to be like, yo, these guys are like bullying the crap out of me. What am I doing here? Yeah. But the first 20, like you said, the first 20 minutes, the first 20 minutes you walk in a firehouse, you should be like, whoa. Like, I'll never forget the moment I decided to join the fire service. I was like, oh God, 17 and change. And all of my friends were, they're running. There comes a train.
Here comes the train. Bro, the train is coming. So, Allendale.
So I came up in the township of Mahwah.
Mahwah.
Right. So, I was 17 years old. I was a young senior in high school.
That's right near Ramapo College, right?
No, that's where I met my wife. I never went there, but that's where I met her. So I went to Mawa High School. I was halfway through my senior year. All my friends were getting ready to go to college. I was, staying behind.
Yeah.
What do I'm going to go to? We went to I went to Bergen Community College. We called it Southern Paramus University. The Harvard on the highway. So I remember my buddy called me up one night. He was like, "Hey man, what are you doing?" I'm like, "I don't know. I'm just hanging out at my house." He goes, "You want to go with me? I'm going to go." We went to 7-Eleven. That's what, when you're a kid.
Yeah, when you're a kid.
We're going to go to 7-Eleven. You go hang out. And we went to 7-Eleven.
Crush out Slurpees all
Yeah,
day.
exactly.
Yeah.
We're going to go hang out because that's where all the cool kids hang out.
Get brain freeze. Yeah. With your head for like 5 minutes.
Yeah. My buddy was on the fire department. He's in the firehouse. I grew up a block behind the firehouse that I joined. So I always heard them. I always saw them. I was around it, but I was never in it. And
no family? No other family?
My uncle is a retired aircraft rescue firefighter out of the Air National Guard. He was stationed in Stewart Air Force Base.
So you never got the bug with him, huh?
No. He was a cop too. Like
Okay.
he did like the weekend thing, and then he got deployed every now and then. He did all that. But it was one of those things like we only really went to this because he was in the Air Force. It's a government thing. You can't just, it's not like coming here. You can't waltz up. So my buddy goes, "Hey, listen, do you want to come to the firehouse?" Because he met up with other friends. He's like, "I'm like, okay, whatever, I'll go."
Yeah.
I went to the firehouse, and one of my friends, still to this day is my best friend. His name is Mike Cooper. He was there, and you're talking, I went to preschool with this kid.
Oh, wow.
And he was just like,
that's legit. Yeah. That's a legit coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're talking, we played different sports, we had disconnected for a while, things like that. And he says, "Hey man, you coming back tomorrow?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "I'm here to say hi."
Yeah.
He's like, "Okay, cool. So we see you tomorrow?" And I was just like, okay. I came back the next day. It was drill night.
Nice.
And they were, so I was on Mawa Fire Department, Rescue Company 1. And Mawa Fire Department has 5 companies.
Great house, by the way, man.
Dude, so good.
Like,
let me tell you what.
Great house. Awesome reputation.
Oh, here it comes.
Here comes the train.
Talking about, hands down, the rowdiest, most aggressive people I have ever met in my entire life. Like, still to this day, I think about back in the day, and I'm like, those are the best years of my life so far.
Come on.
Here it comes.
We'll let the train go by.
Sure.
And actually, when that train goes by, can we close the doors? Because the car traffic it's killing me.
Oh, you can hear the car traffic?
Oh, yeah, bro. You can't?
No. Frank. Oh, listen how loud the train is. The Centerville Express. So basically, after that Wednesday night when I saw those guys drilling, right, they were doing because it was a rescue company. They were doing a cutting torches, and, I saw it. I was like, wow, dude, look at that.
Especially
that's cool.
As a kid, you're like, man, that's
17 years old.
Yeah.
Smashing things and burning things. I'm like, wow, this is awesome.
Like a dream come true.
Yeah. So I really got spoiled with going into a great company at first because not just so every firehouse in Maui has a stock engine for first due to a structure fire in your zone.
Okay.
And
so it was a rescue company with a engine.
So my old house had we were a heavy rescue company, so we had a stock engine, like another engine set up like a squad with just vehicle electrification tools and things like that. And then we have 2 heavy rescues. One heavy rescue that does your, all your vehicle electrification, man stuck in a machine, high and low angle rope, swift water, building collapse, trench collapse, confined space, you name it.
Man, so as a brand new member coming into a rescue
company, dude, kid in a candy shop.
That's awesome.
It's awesome.
And it's like overwhelming amount of knowledge.
Dude, insane. And you're talking guys that have 20 years just doing, we were a technical rescue team. We had another heavy rescue truck that's dive, structural collapse, trailers. because we were, there's a lot of swift water in Mawa. One of our members donated to us in memory of his brother who passed away, a 2009 at a Cocoa Beach, Florida, a 2009 Diamondback fan boat. So
this chain is awesome, man.
Yeah. So like the train.
It's awesome.
Yeah. They like the train. So yeah.
So you got
like
a fan boat.
A fan boat, like a 497 horsepower Chevy big block engine driving a fan is, I could go like this, and we did that because we had a lot of swift water calls where you can't float attention diagonal. You can't. It's hard to tether the boat. It's hard to do all of that. A lot of moving water that's moving different ways where it would be so manpower intensive that we did one operation one time. It took like an hour and a half to get this person unstuck, and it was not for a lack of tactic, but it was just time consuming and tedious, and God was throwing every curveball he could at us that day. So,
but they're the best jobs ever because you come back, to the fire and you're like, what just happened?
So good. It took me at least 2 weeks to digest all of that, and that's what I love about gaining experience.
And you guys do brief on that job?
We do. After every single call that involves any type of rescue, we sit down, we hash it out for at least a half an hour, and then at the next drill, we talk about it, and we start. Yes, no, good, bad, ugly, whatever. And always we did that.
And that's literally when you have to check your ego at the door, because you can't sit at the table. Let me just point out real quick, this table, I love nothing more than coming to firehouses and seeing tables like that, because right away, dude, right? Pride, ownership, commitment. I mean, that's what that kitchen table is about. And for you guys in this house, with the tour, it's like it's in your bay, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's here. So you come back and you sit at that table. And what do you say to your guys after a job at that table?
What do I say to them?
Yeah.
Well, we're back. What are we doing differently? Mm-hmm. What did we do good? What did we do bad?
And if we're not checking our ego there, then we're not going to have open dialogue. Right?
And I will tell you immediately that anything that goes on that I could have done differently is coming out in the air right away. I don't do any of that. Well, no, none of that crap. We have to operate efficiently as a company. The only way we operate efficiently is if we critique ourselves, come up with a battle plan, institute it, train on it, so you're ready for next time.
Absolutely. And that's what's going to make the difference between the good job next or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What you do and the actions you perform post-incident are going to reflect most upon your next one.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, so we're outside here, Holmdel Fire Department, and we're going to look at a prop that the fire department made for training at the firehouse. We talk all the time that you don't have to be at a training center to do what you need to do. Get it done right at the firehouse. So, Steve, welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, I like that you have this outside the firehouse. I mean, this is something you guys can work on at your leisure. So, talk to me a little bit about what you made here.
So, we had a couple of younger guys that aren't qualified drivers yet. They're asking, we want to pull lines, we want to repack. So, basically, what happened was, one day we were all hanging out here, and I said, well, why don't we make it possible? We made a quick plan, went to Lowe's, spent a few $100, came back here. But before we did it, the plans included measuring of our cross lays, height, width, exactly to a T. For our cross lays, we use 200-foot inch and 3/4 Minuteman. So we basically did what we got to do to make the measurements to set it up. And the same thing, 200-foot Minuteman, deuce and a half, can pull from both sides. You got loops.
So this is the same pre-Canuck you got off the rig.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's smart. You're doing something that's on the rig itself. You're not trying to reinvent the wheel and then recreate something. I mean, this is what you're using.
Simple and smooth.
Why'd you guys go to Minuteman here?
In Holmdel, especially during the day, we're short-staffed.
Right.
So
that's like the common theme everywhere.
That's the story everywhere.
Right.
So single man deployment, single man everything. We got to be able to get this line to the door yesterday.
Guys, tell me what it means for you guys as members here, working with Steve, and of course working with these props. Why are you doing this?
I mean, I get after it all the time here. We're hanging out instead of sitting inside watching TV.
Right.
Get out here, stretch a couple lines. It's easy. You don't have to pull the rig out. And I mean, this thing wheels right out there. We throw a couple park cars in the way, a couple chairs. I mean, it's all about sets and reps, getting after it.
So sets of reps, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about a little later. I like the fact that you say you put a car in front of it, you put some props in the way, because that's real world firefighting. It's not always going to be a parking lot run. And you know, Bobby Ecker talks a lot about, you know, doing your reps in the parking lot, in the open parking lot. That's not training.
That's not,
That's not real training. So, you know, I like the fact that you're doing that. You're putting a car out there, you know, taking even a couch, maybe an old couch you put in the way. It's,
something, anything.
It
doesn't
smart.
matter.
So this is all handmade.
That's it.
It was all us.
All us.
So, and this is the kind of commitment and drive we're talking about out there. And, you know, if you ain't doing this, get out and do it.
You want the plans?
Yeah, so basically, I got to segue my way into going to the academy through Company One. I got, you know, one of our senior men in Company One is an instructor at the Bergen County Fire Academy.
It always helps.
Dude, it was awesome because he'd come to me and be like, all right, well, what are we bad in?
Right.
I'd be like, everything, you know, and then he'd come, he'd sit there, you know, and he would take time because he knew that we were his guys. He would pay more attention to us during evolutions in the academy. Really stand up dude. His name is George Polster, stand up guy.
When you talk about Mawa to me, dude, your face just lights up.
Dude,
bro.
I'm telling you right now, best years of my life besides being married.
Yeah,
And
your queen.
My queen. That's
queen.
it. So shortcut to the queen, right? So I came up, went through Proby school, started gaining experience. So in in Company One, before you take Fire 2, you have to go to take to rescue school.
Okay.
Right. So that's at the Bergen County EMS Training Academy. You go through their rescue technician program. That's where you learn all of your vehicle extrication, high and low angle rope, all of your utility emergencies. You know, you rappel from a tower, you cut up cars, hazmat operations, all that special ops stuff. That's what we learned there. And then you can go to, if you want after that, you're done. So once you graduate rescue school, you can start training with the company on rescue operations. You're not allowed to unless you graduate rescue school.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So it's more of like a fundamental, like,
Yeah, so no one's just on the rig.
yeah. It's same way, like, you know, how RIC guys have to get, you know, your SCBA, all that stuff, RIT operations. Like it's the same thing for
awareness,
us.
awareness,
RIT ops, the SCBA, all that stuff. So you have to have rescue school if you want to get on the rescue truck. So the way we rolled in our old house to fires was that the engine would roll first due, the rescue truck would roll second due, similar to act as a truck company.
Nice.
So it was awesome. You know,
The amount of experience you get. I mean, just
unbelievable.
especially young kids, man. I look at these guys. I mean, they're sponges, right?
Yeah.
It's just absolute sponges.
It's
so
unreal.
Just, and
I tell them, I said, anything that anyone says, good or bad, you take it in and take it for what it is.
absolutely.
But what I thought was really cool was we got to operate during Hurricane Irene. We got to operate during Superstorm Sandy. We went to Little Ferry when the dam broke. And they kept us in their back pocket, the Jersey Task Force One. They kept us in their back pocket for any specialty because we had the boat that could get them, get in the water right away. You drop it on land, you drive it in water. It's great. So it was really cool. We got to actually operate during Superstorm Sandy. There was someone in Moonachie that was trapped above an Italian restaurant. Old lady in a wheelchair. O2 was running out, and we got in and we realized how hard it was to get her out of that apartment. And you're talking to, like, this is while the fan boat is like just sitting there, like trying to keep up with whatever currents are drifting back and forth. The Coast Guard is calling the operator on of the boat on the thing, and one of the other guys. So at the time, I was a junior captain, right? I was first year's captain. I had done time as lieutenant before that, and I remember going, this is like as real world as it gets, right? As far as special operations, water rescue, something like that, right? So I'll never forget, one of the lieutenants came down at the time, and my brother was calling me out. So my brother came up in the firehouse after me.
Oh, that's awesome.
2 years after me, he joined, and he and I established a bond that is unbreakable for eternity. Words cannot express how much I have a bond with my little brother. It's unbelievable. I'm proud of him. He's got his own family now. He's buying houses. He's got a job. I'm like, wow, dude, like it's crazy. But my brother, so when I left Mawa, my brother actually got up as high as battalion chief.
Nice.
Out of the 5 firehouses, each one of them has a battalion chief. So he was he got to do time as battalion chief after I left. But it was cool. Like my son and I got to hold the Bible for him. Like I got sworn in.
Awesome,
dude, like that's real world pride shit. That's awesome. So my brother was calling us on the radio. What's going on? What's going on? I was like, she's running out of oxygen. It's like, why? I was like, I mean, like, this is the only story I'm saying because it was the most relevant out of like how I had to combine experience with training,
Right.
and what the guys above me instilled into me. And I'm like, what? And as a boss, you're like, well, oxygen's going to run out. It's going to run out before we even get back to shoreside. I'm like, what are we going to do? You know, so the lieutenant pokes his head and goes, hey, I guess there was, because the water had overtaken the streets, there was an abandoned ambulance.
No kidding.
So he had two guys.
How's that for timing?
He got two guys. I'm like, this is like handing it to, I'm like, if there's something, I'm
It's
like,
like come from the heavens.
Yeah. I'm like, this water's going to have like, you know, fecal matter in it or something like that. I'm going to get some kind of infection because I'm like, I said, go. They were able to get oxygen bottles from it. We were able to click in and then, you know, brought it back nicely. But, experiences like that to me are once in a lifetime, because how often does the superstorm come through? Yeah. Obviously, we got blessed with
once in a lifetime. Yeah.
I pray to Christ.
Yeah, that was something.
We got blessed with 2 superstorms within 2 years, and I was like, guys, enough with this already.
Yeah.
You know, and you talk about making mistakes. Like, I'll be the first one to tell you, I make mistakes. I'll never forget during Hurricane Irene, I was a junior lieutenant. Like, you're talking maybe 6 months as a boss, and I was waiting all night. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to be an officer. I got to, you know, you want to talk about being a young officer, unexperienced. What a schmuck. You know what I mean? So I'll never forget it. And the guys still, to this day, never let me live this down. Our rescue truck was like, you know, we're going to go to this person's house. They got water in front of the house. It's not like the raging rapids in front of the house. I'm like, let's go, you know. And so
you're putting your helmet on.
Yeah, you're getting ready to kill it, you know. And I'll never forget, we drove, and the driver was like, all right, let's go through here. And I'm like, okay. And like, being an officer, you're focused on like what you're going to tell the crew's going to do. Mm-hmm. You know, as a boss, when you're going to any type of call, there's 1,000 things going through your head at the same time.
Yep.
So I'll never forget it. And I said to myself, halfway through, I'm like, why did you stop in the water? And he was just like, well, I don't know. The truck shut off. We sucked water right into the intake of the engine, blew the thing up, had to get it towed back to the firehouse, had to have the whole thing breaking down. And the whole time, and naturally, in the back of the rig, I had like 4 of the most senior dudes you have ever met. And they're like, really? You make moves like that in a bad spot, you know, you can kill us, right? I'm like, oh, what? And I'm like,
you realize, like,
yeah, talk about humbling.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yo, that's it. I gotta really get on my shit. So that's when I said to myself, you know, you have to be excellent at doing this, or you have to try very hard to be excellent at doing this.
Yeah. No one's gonna be perfect, but I mean,
you have to try. You have to strive as hard as you can for excellence, because if you don't, you're gonna have a bad problem.
What does it mean for you personally with, you know, coming up in the fire service and that family aspect? Like, what does that mean?
It means that you do something with a group of people, something that is different than anything you do with any other group of people. Right. Family, right? You always eat at the same Thanksgiving dinner table with your, you know, your aunt, your uncle, and this and that. No matter what else is happening in the world, you have that time with your family. My time is spent with this family riding this engine. Right. You know, I have my family, but our time here as a family is spent riding this engine, and our bond between each other is what's going to solidify the success when we all get in there.
I'm going to ask you a question. I think you're going to like this question, and that is, what did you bring from your experiences up north here? Okay,
so that's a great question. So I love the camaraderie aspect of the fire service. So ask these two in the back. I'm always like, yeah, you know, I'm joking around, breaking chops. Like, you know, when we operate, like, they know when I'm in serious face and when I'm in slapstick face, right? Because I try to. You have to, like, what we do is so serious that if you don't joke and if you don't have fun while you're not in serious mode, you're going to succumb to yourself, man.
Oh, absolutely.
You can't. And I was you're
going to burn out.
1,000%. And I was always taught, or at least not even taught, I just learned it from experience, right? You get back from the crazy call, you're like, they start joking about it. Or at the end of the day, you know, you guys are looking at stuff like, oh, wow, probably should have done that better, huh? Like just trying to develop that family atmosphere into doing what you're doing is very easy to do. So I came from them like a cadre of dudes who like, and you're talking like, imagine being 18 years old and you sign up to do the fire service, right? You're like, I'm gonna be a fireman, you know, and you go and it's like when you're a freshman in high school and you see seniors for the first time. They look like grown adults, right? You like that guy's got a beard, wow, you know, and it's like, you know, you go into the firehouse and there's these salty dudes with like mustaches and stuff like that. And you're like, whoa, this is like the real deal. And these guys look like they're going to eat me for breakfast.
And you look up to them like they're gods, you know,
yeah,
at a
dude,
young
1,000%. You say, oh, do it this way, do it that. I'm like, yeah, okay. You know,
100% had
oh,
the same experience, man. Like looking up
so
like, oh
good.
my God, he's got
I love that, Frank. Like, I love that.
Yeah.
And I had like 6 or 7 guys that I learned from so much that I literally take it and I find myself with these two. You know, we were training extrication the other day, and I was showing them things that I remember learning when I was 18 years old from these same dudes who I still talk to today.
That's awesome.
You know, I don't get a chance to go up there as much as I should, and it's frustrating. But my time in Mahwah has developed my life. Right? If it wasn't for joining that firehouse, my life would not be what it is today whatsoever. Right? So I mentioned my buddy Mike. He introduced me to my wife. His girlfriend at the time was at Rampo College, and that's where we went on Thursday nights. Yeah, you know, we would go, you know, throw some beer in a backpack, go gallivanting, and that's it. But I'll never forget it. He called me after we had got done with our monthly meeting Friday night, September 7th, 2007. He's like, "Yo, dude, my girl is having some people at her, you know, dorm.
Did you study that date before the interview?
Tell you what,
were you
man,
like, what was the date?
There's a lot of sevens. That's the only reason why I remember.
That's awesome.
So I'm just kidding, but I'll never forget it because that was the night where he's like, "Hey man, you want to come hang out? You know, she's having people over. We're gonna have a drink, whatever, you know, the college kids are doing." I went there and he's like, "Hey, there's a girl that I want you to meet." And that was it. Fast forward, you know, umpteenth years later, married, 2 children.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And just today you had the kids running around, right?
Oh yeah. These 2 were babysitting. we were making cutlets and these kids were stealing all the Torali and all the rolls and
awesome.
Shooting Richie with Nerf guns and stuff like that.
It's either one of 2 things. It's either birth control or it's the opposite. Like, dude, someday I'm going to have kids like that.
Yeah. And I told them, take your pick, boys. What do you want? So met her, you know, and I'm going to say this, I'm going to do a little snippet about her.
Absolutely.
If I can.
Yeah, absolutely, man. This is your show, bro.
If it wasn't for my wife, I would be dead or in jail. So, just kidding. But
so good job. Look
yeah,
at you. You did a good job.
There you go. So my wife's name is Ryan. She is my queen, my life. I wouldn't remember what to do with my head if it was detachable, if it weren't for her. She is the great organizer of things. Yeah. She's the best mother in the entire world.
That's awesome.
The most supportive wife. Any spouse who supports us doing this nonsense is, in my opinion, whether it's for a day or a decade or 7 decades, is, even if it's for a day, you are have great worth in this world. You know, it's hard sometimes, right? Full disclosure,
a lot of times away and
a lot of time away, or like, you know,
because that commitment goes one way. Like, you know,
man.
If you're here working with these guys and you're here ripping these road
trust me,
apart, you're not home.
Ask them. She lets me know when I should be home.
Yeah, but the point is, if you're here, you're not home, right?
Yeah,
so there's a sacrifice both ways.
Yeah, and my wife and I have it worked out really well, where like COVID has kind of changed things. Now that I can work from home, I can take the kids to school and then still work. I can pick the kids up, even if, you know, and still work.
Right.
I can, you know, like I was telling you before, I'm not eating a sandwich off a 2x4 anymore. So, you know, it's easier for me to be around in general, for the kids to be around this place, to be around my wife, to do stuff around the house. Back in the day when I was out for 8 to 12 hours a day, 5 to 7 days a week working, and still trying to come out to the firehouse and go on fire calls. Obviously not as often. It's hard. I've had to take months off. I've had to tell my chief, like, listen, man, I'm not going to be around for 6 weeks. I'm on a job in Sussex County. I got to be there from 7 to 7. I got to leave at 5 a.m. I'm not getting home till 10 p.m. every night. I can't be coming around for the next 3 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever it was.
Right.
And just for her to support me during all of that, when I get on the truck and I'm gone for 6 hours overnight, I have this mutual understanding with her. Like, so for a while we were just doing whatever. But once kids got involved, she and I had to sit down and be like, hey, listen, you have to do things when it's appropriate. And being a fireman, well, I'm a fireman. I'm gonna go do it all the time.
It seems like it's always appropriate.
Yeah, it's always appropriate. I want to be here for 27 hours a day.
Yeah.
I want to do fireman things for 27 hours a day, every day. I love this shit. So it's difficult for me sometimes because I'm like, I got to go to the walkthrough. And then she's like, the baby's got a fever. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm going to go to the walkthrough. It's
that walkthrough is going to be another day.
Yeah, or the walkthrough is going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. And I'm not doing that. It's hard to put, especially being in the volunteer fire service, it's hard to put family in the same bracket. My immediate family has to come first. Yeah. And sometimes I've made moves, man, and I've felt the wrath because I made the wrong move 1,000%. And even though I've put her through all of that, she still supports me. And I'm like, what? Like, I got a really good, I can't screw this up.
Yeah.
So.
And again, that personal sacrifice, like I said, it goes both ways. So, you got to find that balance.
Oh.
And there's some guys and girls in this job that just haven't found that balance, and
it's cost them marriages, families.
Yeah, definitely.
Like we have rules. My one rule is, like, if I'm going to come here and do training and stuff like that, anything that needs to be done with the kids has to be done prior to doing that. Right. So when I come out here, ask these guys, I come in here on 2 wheels, almost late to drill because, she needed to have one more verse of Into the Unknown or do you want to build a snowman? I had to sing it 5 more times.
You're like,
yeah. Because if you don't sing it 5 more times,
right.
She's going to be yelling and screaming. And then my wife got to deal with her while I'm gone. It's going to be bad news bears. So.
Bro, I got to tell you, you saw a movie, My Cousin Vinny, right?
Every time.
Okay. So since I'm sitting here, every time that train goes by.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's so loud. All I think about in my mind is like him popping out of bed and going, what the f***?
When he pops up, that train's at 4 a.m. And then the guy's talking at the bottom of the hotel.
Dude, because it's so, especially in the headphones, man, it's so loud.
And still to this day, my brother and I break chops about this scene. My brother and I are big movie guys.
Yeah.
And
me too.
And one of my favorite scenes my brother and I constantly always used to laugh at was when he's in the other lawyers like Wood's home and he hears the owl screeching. He comes out in his like Doc Marten leather boots, a pair of tighty whities, and the tank top with this like giant revolver he found in the closet. He just starts blind firing into the woods. I crack up every time. Those two, Marissa Tomei,
that's a great movie.
The best. Anyway.
not to get off track, but every time I hear that train, I've heard it 5 times so far that train went by. Yeah. What does it go by? Like every 20 minutes, 15 minutes?
Well, it depends. It's the busy time of the day. It'll go. You'll see one there and one back. One there, 30 seconds later, one back. One there, one back. Transit's got their game tight, man. They go back and forth constantly.
You must hear that in your sleep.
Oh, not even that. I was telling you before. The worst part is, like, this is not a big firehouse. We don't have a meeting room.
Right.
We conduct business here in the bay. We pull the engine out, pop the doors open. Especially now, this whole week it was an accumulative of 105 degrees. So like if we were to have the monthly meeting, we'd have to go to somebody's house or something like that because we wouldn't be able to hold in here, and the day room is too small. But the worst part is like we're trying to be like, okay, new business, and when you hear the whoop whoop in the background, everybody's like, oh, everybody's like. And it's worse too because like how monthly meetings in volunteer fire departments gets heavy with certain things. It gets not heavy once you're heavy into something and there's like guys are really getting into critiquing something that's going on or trying to approve something or not approve something, bylaw change, all that nonsense. And they hear boom boom. Everybody's like just like what does he say in the Christmas Story? Waves a tapestry of profanity. Just everybody's like beep 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 mother beep. Like just I'm not trying to keep it semi PG rated, but the worst curses come out when that train comes through here, man. And it's just like everybody does that like the angry like extreme like they're doing that, and I'm like holy moly.
Yeah, it reminds me of Allendale
was.
Oh yeah, love Allendale.
So let's talk about
love
Allendale,
those guys.
man.
So before I segue out of it, Mawa has guys that come and go. I know that a couple of guys that I've seen come and go, top guys. They're also riding, but the guys that brought me up, John Darby, Steve Dougherty, like all these guys that were the huge bring ups, Christian Darby, all these guys, these senior men. Chris Stricker's the deputy chief now. I was coming up with him when he was just starting to become, coming through being an officer. You want to talk about Allendale?
Well, before you do that, so think about this for a second. You have a platform right now.
Oh, and then those are just 4 guys. We had 15, 16 guys that I would constantly.
So right now is your opportunity. Like, what do you want to say to them as far as where you're at now?
Thank you. You guys have taught me things that I'm going to take to the grave. And for that, I'm eternally grateful. I had those, spending time with those guys socially, in the firehouse, on calls. The guy I talked to you about, John Darby, he offered me a job as an electrician. That's what I've been doing for the last 15 years. If it wasn't for him giving me that opportunity for the job, sorry for screwing up so much when I was a young kid. I'm so sorry. I blew him up underneath a thing one time. He threw a pair of strippers at me because of it. I blew him up so bad one time. Like, did you shut the breaker off? Yeah. And he was like, "Rah!" And he threw the pliers at me. The next day I bought him a new pair of strippers because I blew them up. So, if it wasn't for that guy, John, I wouldn't be an electrician. I wouldn't, and listening to him, even like being in the work truck, I was a schmuck when I was a kid, dude. I fell through the company I used to work for. We were working in his new insurance agent's house. I was putting in an attic fan, fell through the ceiling. Yeah, dude, I was an animal when I was a kid. So, we would always be, hanging out with the guys after whatever. He'd be like, Steve, tell everyone what you did at work today. And I'm like, oh God, no, I don't want to do it. It's so embarrassing. And then I'd have to tell them because he's like, you understand, I'm showing you something. I'm like, oh. And that's where I'm like,
everything's a lesson.
Yeah, dude. And like Mr. Miyagi, but a little twisted, and so he, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have my career today. And Chris Stricker, the guy I told you about, well, when I was done working with the electrician with John, he was like, hey, dude, you want to work on fire alarm systems? That's what I do for work today. I'm a fire alarm systems engineer, right? And if it wasn't for that company, no wife, no job, no kids, no nothing. If it wasn't for those guys are responsible for my adult life. My parents too, obviously. My parents too.
Your parents helped out.
Yeah. Yes, 1,000%. It wasn't for my parents, same thing. If it wasn't for that core group of guys that I came up with as the older guys in the fire service, the senior men,
right,
I would not be where I am today at all.
That's a huge statement, man. It's powerful.
It has to be.
Yeah.
Because you talk about the 20 minutes when you walk in.
Yeah.
Those guys mentally took me in, broke me down, brought me up. I learned how to break balls from being in the fire service.
Broke you down, but just to build you up.
Yeah. Not like breaking me down for me to watch me go down.
Right.
Right. After they break you down, they explain to you why you're doing it, right? So for instance, when you yell, I yell at my kids sometimes, right? Put it down,
Well, I'm teaching my daughter how to drive right now, so there's a lot of Italian yelling, and then afterwards, I go, I can't help this. Like,
understand, I love you. I'm doing this for a reason.
Because I don't like going head on with cars and all that thing.
Oh, so, dude, it's awful. I can only imagine dude. You're scaring me, bro. Stop.
Bro, it's an amazing experience. I'm
not ready for that yet.
It's definitely amazing.
I'm not ready for that yet. We're just getting through potty training. I'm not ready for that yet.
You got time. So tell me about. Just wait, bro. Tell me about Allendale.
Allendale. So like in Mawa, we were just Rescue Company 1.
Right.
Allendale has a nickname called the Nut House. Those guys.
Is that because Rob's there?
Rob is the man, right? So I love.
How many accents does Rob have? Let's talk about that.
Okay, so Rob has many accents.
What's the first one?
Are you ready?
Yeah.
If he's being professional, he sounds like he's from Chicago.
Okay.
If he's talking to me, because I'm Polish, right? If he's talking to me or he's talking to somebody else who's Polish or something like that, he puts on a hard Polish accent, and he says the Polish F word constantly. We always do it together. It's fun. So he's got Chicago, he's got Polish. If he's talking with someone who's someone who lives near New York. So if you live in Hudson, Essex, certain parts of Passaic, or Rockland County, he talks with a New York accent. It's true. Listen, if you're putting us on it, that's fine.
Oh, yeah.
I'm telling you right now, dude. Tell me it's wrong, and I swear to God, we'll have words. No, Rob. So Rob was. I don't know how to say it. Rob had. I don't want to make it sound like I'm an asshole. Rob was coming up with less time than I. Right. So, Rob and I came to. But Rob is a dude who. He came to fruition as a position in a position of leadership in the fire service.
Right.
Like he skyrocketed to leadership for some reason. Like for me, it took me like years to learn how to be an appropriate leader. I watched him soar past me. He was, he's paid guy now. Right. He goes to a lot of fires, which I'm very jealous about. He sends me pictures all the time, and he's just like, oh, good, but look at the job I went to today. I'm sitting there, I'm like this. I'm like, God damn it. Like, I just want that, bro. I want to put a line down a hot, smoky hallway. I want to do firemanship all the time. And it's upsetting me when everybody else is sending me.